For staying with us. Thanks for staying with us, everyone. You're watching What Now as we turn our attention to Africa, where rebel forces have entered the last government-held city in mineral-rich Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, in an offensive that has forced thousands to flee across the border into Burundi. Heavy artillery and gunfire could be heard in Uvira, with terrified residents describing the situation as chaotic. The escalation in fighting comes despite the peace deal brokered by U.S. President Donald Trump last week between DR Congo's President Felix Tshisekedi and Rwanda's Paul Kagame to end the long-running conflict. All right, let's now bring in African Affairs analyst for more on this situation. Victor Hai joins me in the studio. Good to have you join us. So, just a violation of this ceasefire agreement days after the signing of the deal in Washington. I mean, what do you make of that? It's coming so quick.
My answer may shock you, but there's no violation, and I'll explain why. We know that, yes, it's a proxy war by Rwanda, but the truth is, Rwanda has always maintained that it has no hands in what's happening. And then you go to Washington without the real people on the ground, the M23 rebels, and you say you have an agreement. Who are the fighters? It's a proxy war. Rwanda is not on ground fighting. It's the M23 rebels that are on the ground fighting. If you refuse to acknowledge the fact and recognize that they are the ones that are on ground fighting, capturing these territories, and then you broker a deal between a person who is denying, although we know it's a proxy war, they've always said their hands are not in it. So why are you involving them in it? Get the M23 so that you can at least hold someone responsible or bring all parties to the table. I would have expected Burundi to be on the table, DR Congo, because Burundi is also involved.
And that's, you raised very key point, because people felt that was just like a parade because they were there at the signing, but not part of the signing. Both Uganda and Burundi, who are also key actors, in this war, we did not have anything to sign. And then I also want to ask you about this. If this just portrays the point people are making about having a single peace plan that everybody signs, so rather than the three different peace plans, one for Burundi, DR Congo and M23 rebels, which is being signed, or which is going to be signed in Qatar, and then a different one for Rwanda, and I mean just different peace plans.
It doesn't make sense. All parties must come to the table. Okay?
And one table.
One table. Sit down before you even draft an agreement. And there are still issues, underlying issues. There are underlying issues. These issues have to be addressed. After you have addressed the issues, then there will be negotiations. At the end of these negotiations, you come up with an agreement. This agreement will form the base of whatever MOU or peace deal that you want to sign. I mean, I don't claim to know better than those who are there, but by all means, we can see that this has failed already. So if they do that, then it's a lot easier, because then you can hold people accountable. M23 will say, if you say to them, do you agree with these terms? You're not going to strike anymore. Are you giving up territories and all that? Remember what I said on this same program, I think was it last week or so, when I said, before the peace treaty, I said, there was still fighting and all that.
Yes.
I said, they were trying that, they needed to do that because they needed to gain more territories, because it was a negotiation tool.
And leverage.
It was good, exactly, to give them leverage. So, but right now, that is, how do I put it now? That's no peace deal, obviously.
And, again, good point you made, because when you also consider the fact, like you mentioned, that they were basically just dealing with the symptoms and not the underlying issues.
Not the underlying issues.
And then the motive, which was really more like trade-related motive from the U.S., the minerals, the hydroelectric mining, and all of that. Did this peace still have any chance at all of survival when you consider all of that?
It was dead on arrival. I mean, those who are even calling for the peace deal, you want to ask, what's the motive? You see, these things you have to treat, again, just to buttress what you have said or we have agreed on here, that the underlying symptoms have to be treated. You don't just come and say, okay, because I want to come in and then exploit resources, you come and sign this bill and say you're not going to fight anymore. Hell no, it's not going to, sorry, I'm sorry for the language. That's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. It's not workable because there are grievances. And what people are failing to understand is that people are never asking what's Rwanda's dog in this fight. You know, there's a reason why Rwanda, I mean, you know, because during the Hutu and Tutsi period and all that, remember that Kagame himself was a fighter. He was in DR Congo before this the war in Rwanda, and his people were seriously marginalized and dealt with at the time. I think he's a man who serves revenge cold. He has not forgiven or forgotten. And so what he's doing right now is he's serving it back to them, and in a way that he keeps saying his hands are not in it. So it's more like the proverbial hand of Jacob and voice of
hand of Esau
and voice, exactly, hand of Esau and voice
again
of
the same thing. He has also complained about Burundi and the FDLR rebels, who he feels that look are also very much involved in the war.
Yes.
And Burundi is also saying, look, we don't have a hand in it.
Exactly.
So outside, very complicated regional, regional actors complicating the conflict rather. But I wanted to talk about the Donald Trump peace plan that was seeing some of them falling apart. Thailand, Cambodia has fallen apart. And then now, this particular one in DR Congo, Rwanda. I mean, what does that say about some of these peace plans he has, put in place, even Israel, Hamas, and the future of the plans?
Okay, so he may have very good intentions, but the methodology is where there's probably a problem. You don't legislate peace plans. You don't force people to live together. To handle it effectively, you must bring all sides to the table. Listen to them, know what the issues are, and then let everyone ventilate. At the end of it all, when they have ventilated, it's easier for them to now listen to each other. And then, as a mediator, you do more of the listening. Let them talk, so that you hear what the issues are on both sides, and then see how you can aggregate the points of interest, their common points of interest, in order to be able to find a pathway. That's how to negotiate peace plans. But, we can see what the results are right now.
I mean, I wish we had enough time to talk about, who should step in now, especially with the absence of the African Union. But I'm told my time is up. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank
As
you.
always, African
you.
Affairs Analyst Victor Hyde. Great to have you in the studio. Bye.
Thank you.
All right, that's where we'll leave it. That's what now. Remember, for some of the stories we have talked about today, whether it's Japan and China or DRC and Rwanda, you can go to our website and